Hey Gators and sports fans, get all your Gator talk, news, analysis, and opinions on the PodUp with Matthews in the Morning podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast platform or watch us on Facebook Live between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. every weekday. PodUp, because we are Gator fans. So say it's great to be a Florida Gator.
Good morning and welcome to a Friday edition of PodUp with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Got a great show lined up for you today. Two special guests. Second portion of the show, we're going to be joined by one of Florida's best pitchers of all time, Marc Valdes will be joining us. Played Major League Baseball, also a pitching coach with the Mets for a long time. But we're going to kick off the show with the one and the only Patrick Dooley from another Dooley noted podcast. Good morning, Pat. How are you?
I'm doing good. And Marc Valdes was one of the best I ever saw. Man, he owned the inside of the plate. You could not dig in against him. Well,
we're going to talk to him about his career, obviously, and then, you know, his coaching career with the Mets and what he's up to now, and, you know, his thoughts about tearing down McKethan Stadium. Because, you know, Pat, I think back, I'm like, we all knew they needed a new ballpark because of what all the other schools in the SEC have. But I couldn't imagine with the motions I would probably go through if they just tore down the swamp to build a new football stadium.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you won't have to worry about that. I can tell you that.
Right.
But again, they've done a lot of things to the swamp. And I wonder if they weren't in the situation where obviously they needed a football-only facility, if they would have torn down McKethan, or would they have just tried to make it better? I don't know that, you know, that'd be like putting a lipstick on a pig to a point, but I wonder if they would have done that because of all the, I mean, what was it, $70 million? So, but I will say this, the new stadium it's unbelievable. It's better than most AAA stadiums I've been to.
Really? You know, and back when Will Muschamp was the coach here, you know, they used to have their training camp in August. The first couple of weeks they practice over at the lacrosse facility.
Right.
And he wanted that to become the football standalone facility because you already had the infrastructure there. You had, two practice fields. You had a little seating capacity there for fans or parents to watch. You could put the indoor facility right there. And then they never wanted to do that. But
I think the reason they didn't want to do it is that the reason they have lacrosse is because people got together and built that stadium with the finances, you know, because that's what the sport they wanted. It kind of, in a lot of ways, made no sense for Florida to play lacrosse when there's not even a conference that
right.
They have to play in this other conference. So, but I think that's a big reason why they built it. So I think they went, nah, we've already got the money from all these people that built this stadium.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. We're speaking with Pat Dooley here on the Titan More Hotline from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Okay, Pat, tomorrow, Gators go to Thompson Bowling Arena. And I talked to Chris Harry earlier today, and we were trying to figure out when the Gators are going to play in the SEC tournament. He told me Gators win, they're one of the double byes.
Right.
Gators lose, they play on Thursday. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. And they don't play tomorrow, they play Sunday. It's a Sunday game.
Oh, it's a Sunday game.
Yeah,
okay.
They got the one Sunday game, and I don't know why. Nobody's explained that to me, but they're playing Tennessee on Sunday. But yeah, if they lose this game, now other teams can lose. I'm not sure how that all works out, but I've learned, don't try to figure out when teams are playing in the SEC tournament because it all changes. But you can't win. It's almost impossible to win the SEC tournament if you don't get the double bye, because then you got to win 4 games in 4 days. It has been done, but it's very rare.
Well, the only reason I was trying to figure out what day we were playing is because I wanted Chris on my show. and we like to let people know in advance who's coming on with our weekly schedule. So last, whatever night it was, Wednesday night, Gators lose to which I think is a really good Missouri team. I can't figure Missouri. There's a lot of teams you can't figure out in basketball this year. Missouri's got a lot of veteran leadership, a good squad. They got a lot of quad 1 victories. your thoughts on this Gator basketball team after the Missouri game?
Well, talk to me after the Kentucky game and then talk to me after the Missouri game, and it's totally different. I mean, but the reality of it is Florida won that Kentucky game, what was it, 72-68, and they lost this game 72-70. I mean, the margin for error with this team is razor thin, obviously, because they've lost their best player that's been out for the whole year. But they can't have 15 turnovers in a half. They just can't do that, and they can't make some of the mistakes they made, getting a technical. The flagrant foul, I still can't understand why.
Oh, that was ridiculous.
Yeah. And you can't let a guy bounce the ball off your back and get a layup. But the drive that Drew Smith made to the basket was a hell of a play. I mean, because he goes up and they got three guys there ready to block it, and he goes up underneath. That's a veteran play, like you said, Shane. So they're a team. They're a team that I think Mike's done a great job holding it together with these guys. They're going to be in the tournament again, which would be every year. Obviously, the only years he didn't make it was his first year. He inherited kind of a mess, and obviously the COVID year. So they'll be in the tournament. They won't be a high seed. They probably won't go very far. I had Gary Parrish on another Dooley Noted podcast and we talked about that a little bit and how we don't know if there's going to be March Madness. There will be a tournament, but we don't know if there's going to be madness. And that's why it's hard to look at a team like Florida and go, oh, I can see them knocking off a 2 seed and in the second round, stuff like that. So look, I think just getting through this season is a win for them, and getting to the tournament's a win. But they can frustrate their fans. And as you know, that Fire Mike White contingent, you don't hear them when they win. You never hear a word. There's no chirping. But when they lose.
Yeah, I was on Twitter after the game, and of course, we got to fire Mike White, blah, blah, blah. And I've said, and I want you to look this stat up, Pat, because you also do a show with Jeff Cardozo, The Tailgate, on a daily basis.
Sure.
But I heard this when I was in Jacksonville on Frangie's show. And it was in the last 4 consecutive years, there's only been 9 head coaches that have taken their team to the NCAA tournament 4 consecutive years. Mike White is one of the 9, and it's getting ready to be his 5th year.
Yeah.
So I don't know what people expect. Here's the turnovers are the reason this team is not what they should be. They don't have a true guard.
Yeah.
They don't have a true point guard. Appleby does things that you love. And then the next time he's like, what are you doing, son? But I like to use this analogy, and maybe it's dumb. Okay. There's not much he can do. You don't have a true point guard. It's just like if you're turning the ball over a bunch in football, you take the quarterback out, put the backup in, and turn around and hand the ball off.
Yeah.
Right? Well, you can't hand it off in basketball. You got to dribble and pass, and turnovers are going to happen. So if they can just eliminate their turnovers a little bit, I think this team could surprise some people because Trey Mann's playing at a very high level. I assume we saw the last of Trey Mann in a Gator uniform in the O'Connell Center the other night.
I would assume so, yeah. I mean, I'll give you another stat that I saw. I think this is right. Like in the last 5 years, 13 of the 14 teams have had a losing one season where they had a losing record. Kentucky being that team this year. Florida's the one that hasn't,
Right.
So, I mean, I think he's done a really good job. The one thing is about Mike White's situation is it's always, you don't want to follow the guy, right? You want to follow the guy to follow the guy. You don't want to be Ron Zook, that's the hard thing. Ron Zook wasn't that bad a football coach. You look at when he was winning 7-8 games a year, but you don't follow Steve Spurrier and win 7 or 8 games, and then next thing you know, you're out. So it's the same thing with Mike White. He's got to take them a lot further than he's been able to take them even in the tournament. And I think this would have been the year if he had Keontae Johnson. I think the potential was there for a really good basketball team, but it still would be a team without a point guard. My wife brought that up last night. I go, well, they had 15 turnovers, and she goes, well, Keontae isn't the point guard. What difference does that make? I go, well, he might have settled them down. He might have made them make smarter decisions there, and they might not have needed as much as they are asking Trey Mann and other guys to do. But yeah, you're right about Appleby. I mean, he had a shot last night that was an unbelievable shot, but he missed a bunch of free throws and turnovers. I think he had 5 turnovers. It's this team is what it is, and I'll tell you, Sunday, Thompson Bowling Arena, I have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah, there's a lot on the line. Refresh your vehicle and your brand with a vehicle wrap from Wrap Spot. March is your lucky month at Wrap Spot. Mention promo code Shane and receive 13% off your vehicle wrap. We're speaking with Pat Dooley on the Titan MR hotline from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be joined second portion of the show by former UF pitcher and Major League pitcher Marc Valdes. So, Pat, looking at the SEC tournament, do you have a sleeper type team that could make some noise?
Well, I feel like they're all sleepers. Alabama obviously will be the favorite because they won the conference. But sometimes there's a feeling of, because I know how it is. You go out there, your first game, they present you with the trophy, you kind of have a little mini celebration, then you got to go play a game. And sometimes guys don't play well after they won the conference tournament. And Alabama's shown a little bit of a flaws lately. Certainly, Arkansas is the hottest team right now, but you can't be a sleeper when you're the 2 seed. So you can go, but you can go down into that and look at teams like Florida and look at teams like, I like that LSU team. I can't understand why they're not better. It could be because they've not cheated enough. They certainly have cheated, just not enough maybe to be a little bit better than they are. Ole Miss is another team. A bunch of veteran guys that they scare you a little bit. So I think I will say this. I think the first 2 days of the tournament are going to be fascinating to see who wins, who survives, who moves on, and then you get to the 4 teams that are the byes, and whoever they might happen to be, whether it's Florida or somebody else. I think that those are the best teams, and they've got the easiest run. So I'm going back to my theory, Shane, and I don't know if you subscribe to this, that since we've had COVID, what have we seen? The Lakers, Dodgers, Tom Brady, Alabama. I think it's going to be the same way in the postseason for college basketball. It's going to be Gonzaga, Michigan, Baylor, Ohio State, Illinois, those kind of teams get to the final. And I think in the SEC tournament, you'll probably have an Alabama-Arkansas final.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. That's a good point. All the people that usually win have been winning.
Yeah, the cream just rises, yeah.
Yeah, my sleeper team is the Missouri Tigers. I don't know where they're going to be seated in the SEC tournament, but they have so many veteran players. I think Konzo Martin does a good job with them. Like I said, they've beaten Illinois this year. They've beaten some really good teams. If they put it together, I think they can make a little run.
Pat, they didn't have Jeremiah Tillman there for a while. I think it was the death of the family. He was out, and they lost 5 out of 6, and you kind of wondered, they beat Alabama, but then they lost 5 out of 6 before that Florida game. That was a big win for their confidence going into the tournament. So, yeah, they could easily be a sleeper team.
Yeah. Switching over to baseball, the other night, Gators lose at home to Florida Atlantic. What do you make of this baseball team?
I know Kevin O'Sullivan is not happy with him right now. He was his post-game press conference. I didn't hear it, but I did read the quotes, and he was pretty upset. He doesn't understand why this team's not playing at a better level. He's got, guys that are playing at a very high level, like Jacob Young, who's got a 3-year hitting streak.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is wild. But, Judd Fabian has not been the guy I thought he would be so far. I mean, he got a little power surge there, but I don't know. They're kind of a weird team. But the biggest issue has been, and it wasn't Wednesday night, they pitched really well, but they're not getting that relief pitching in some of the other games. They did get good pitching. They lost a game on an unearned run, which again goes back to your shortstop in Rivera, who's made a ton of errors this year. Now, what do? You talk about if your quarterback's not getting it done, you put the other quarterback in, hand it off. I don't know that they've got anybody to put there that will make them happy. You could see something happen there where they take him out of the game because he's not hitting either. I think he's a skilled player. I don't know what the issue is for him, why he's having a problem. But there are a lot of little things going on that they've got to get figured out before they get into SEC play, because the SEC is really good. And Jeff and I have talked about this on the show, and I know he talked about it on the broadcast last Wednesday night, and that is that this college baseball, this is probably the greatest year for college baseball talent ever because of the draft being only 5 rounds. Everybody came back. Seniors were allowed to get an extra year. Everybody is loaded. This conference is loaded. If you're not ready to go in SEC play, you're going to have some real problems.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. You're right. The SEC is just, it's brutal week in and week out trying to win series. Pat, spring football, a couple of weeks in, I guess. What are you hearing out there? You know, I get these people on my show and around town, you know, can Emory throw the football? Blah, blah, blah. He can throw the football, but he's not the same kind of thrower as Kyle Trask. He's got a good arm. He's very athletic, as we all know. Are you hearing the same thing? People asking you all these crazy questions?
Yeah. I mean, look, Emory can throw the ball, but can he throw it where it's supposed to be thrown?
Well, exactly. It's all about anticipation, and accuracy is the most important thing. I don't care if you can throw a ball 85 yards at 100 miles an hour. It does you no good if you can't throw completions.
Yeah. Marcus Russell was a perfect example of that. He could throw it 80 yards from his knees, but he couldn't throw it to anybody that was walking by. But I think that's the big mystery about Emory Jones is, can he be the every down quarterback? Look, you know this better than anybody, Shane. What makes a great quarterback is decision making. You've got to make the right decisions, and you've got to throw it to guys that are open, and you've got to know why they're open and when they're supposed to be open. It's not enough just to stand back there and hope somebody gets open and just throw the ball and try to fit it into tight spaces. So that's what we don't know about him. I mean, we know that he'll be a better runner, and obviously that's something that Florida will incorporate into their offense a lot more. They feel like Anthony Richardson can also do that, so they don't feel like they'll be in a situation where we can't run Emory, because if he gets hurt, we don't have anybody else. So I think you'll see that, and I think they'll be helped, and it'll be an interesting dynamic, Shane. And I actually wrote about something for this Gators Wire thing that I'm doing on why the defense will be better. And one reason Florida's defense will be better is they're going to run the ball more. They're going to run it with the quarterback. They've got all these great tailbacks, 2 5-stars back there, right? I mean, you would think they're going to run the ball more. And guess what? As you know, that limits the possessions of the other team. It limits the number of plays the other team can run. So your defense has to have better numbers. And you play Samford, USF, and FAU instead of an all-SEC schedule, 11 games, and then Oklahoma. So that's certainly going to help, I think, as well. But you know, I think this team has a chance to be really good. I like I like their roster. I think it's a really good roster. It's just a question of whether Emory Jones is up for the challenge, and that's the answer that you and I don't know, and I don't even think Dan Mullen knows yet.
No, and you know, I think Emory's going to be okay, because I think when you look back at Dan and his coaching career, he's always been really good with that dual threat guy who can actually run the football.
Yeah.
And we know Emory's an explosive runner, but I think he's going to be able to make plays outside the pocket in the passing game, you know, just running around.
Yeah. And the other thing is, Shane, he's a powerful runner too.
He runs. I mean, he runs like mad.
Yeah.
He runs mad. And so when you talked about the defense, I think the defense will be better because exactly what you said. We won't be scoring at a high pace.
Right.
Dan, I mean, you still want explosive plays, but as you said, it's going to be more run oriented. My whole concern going back to last August with this football team was the defensive line play. I did not think we were SEC caliber on the defensive line, and it showed true. They added the 2 guys in the transfer portal from Auburn and Penn State. I think they're big dudes. I know nothing about them, but they have to help us on defense, don't you think?
I do, and then you got to feel like Gervon Dexter having a year, under Savage and having a year on campus is going to be a better. I like the ends in Carter and Brenton Cox. I think they'll be better. Mm-hmm. You know, Cox was basically playing his first season of college football. I know he played a couple of games for Georgia before he transferred. But he had to sit out a whole year. So, I mean, I think they'll be okay on the defensive line as long as, and again, I haven't gone back and looked at any tape of the guy from Auburn or the guy from Penn State and seen what they did. But I mean, they're big bodies and they'll help. I mean, that was the problem they had until they got Kyrie Campbell, and even then, that wasn't enough. So they've got to be able to have guys like if Gervon Dexter and maybe you can get another guy and you can rotate those guys in, you don't let them get tired, because big guys are more apt to get tired than little guys. We all know that as you're running around and rushing the passer. So I think they'll be okay there. I think Ventrell Miller has to step up and be a big-time player this year.
Yeah, so a lot of question marks there, but I do like their roster. I think they have a chance to be pretty good this year. Last thing for you, Pat, before we let you go. Yeah, have you taken a tour of the head ball coach's restaurant yet?
I have. I went a couple weeks ago. Still was a lot of work to be done, but it was. It's going to be amazing. I mean,
you can't really describe it. You have to go see it. People are going to be blown away with it. I did tell him he needs to have a little media boys area.
I did. You're not the only person that's told him he needs to have a media boys discount.
There you go.
For some of those drinks.
Hopefully, he has a former players discount too.
Yeah, that would be good. But it's funny. When we were touring and we were leaving and I was walking out, they were putting the Visors sign up, up on the restaurant. And I was like, that'd be something if that thing fell off and hit me and killed me. And Spurrier's visor killed me after all this, after all the times I've been good to him, and his visor killed me.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, it's gonna be a great place, no question about it. I can't wait for it to open. Pat, really appreciate you taking the time. Let everybody know how they can check your show out and listen to you with Cardozo.
Yeah, we're on every day 4 to 6, Jeff Cardozo and myself. And unfortunately, because of the baseball schedule, a lot of times I'm going to be doing a solo. So actually, some other people are going to sit in with me. We're no show Friday today because of softball. So that's the thing. We're getting preempted a little bit here and there, but hopefully not too much. And we'll be able. And that's another thing. We got to wait and see what happens with that basketball schedule, Shane. Is how whether that'll impact us or not. But I mean, again, I have no idea when they're going to play right now.
Yeah. All right, man. Good stuff. Appreciate it. Be safe out there, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, Shane.
Yep, that's Pat Dooley joining us on the Titan Tomorrow Hotline. We're going to take our first time out of the program. When we come back, we'll be joined by Marc Valdes. You're watching and listening to PodUp with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios.
Hey Gators, this is Coach Steve Spurrier. PodUp with Matthews in the Morning. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. G-Tech Sport, keep your athletes in the game with G-Tech Sport. Celebration Point Town Center, Center State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Adams Rib Company, Doreen Wiebe Realtor Caldwell Banker, MM Parish, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Route Spot, Okido America, Gators Dockside, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, TB Financial, Meadowbrook Golf Course, Darshakow Insurance. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit podupwithshane.com and click the Advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to this Friday edition of PodUp with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Celebration Points, where the Gators go to celebrate with premium brands like Dave & Buster's, Nike, Sushi Hana, Uzaline Day Spa, and coming June of 2021, the HBC's new restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Visor's Rooftop Bar. We will see you at Celebration Point, where the Gators go to celebrate. We're now going to go to the Titan MR Hotline, and we're joined by former Gator pitcher Marc Valdes. Good morning, Marc. How are you, buddy?
Good morning, Shane. How you doing?
Doing all right. Well, let's talk about your baseball career. You know, you played high school ball down in the Tampa area, Tampa Jesuit. It's basically a baseball powerhouse down there. When it got time for you to graduate from there, did you always want to be a Gator, or were there other schools that were hot and heavy after Marc Valdes?
Well, it's funny that you asked. You know, timing is everything. When I was at Tampa Jesuit, trying to figure out where I wanted to go to school, there weren't a lot of teams calling. Florida State called a little bit. Miami wanted me to go there, but they didn't want to give me a scholarship until maybe my junior year. But a lot of JUCO teams, University of New Orleans, took me on a trip, which was very interesting, and a couple places up north in Ohio. I just got lucky, and timing was everything. Somebody ended up signing in the draft with they were going to go to University of Florida, and there was a spot open, and Gil Arnold and Scott Lovecamp, had an offer, and I couldn't say no to it. So they gave me the full ride, and I was a Gator ever since after that.
Yeah, which, getting full rides in baseball is kind of unheard of, right? Because don't they get X amount and they have to kind of spread it out and divide it up among all the players on the team?
Yep. And the only thing I didn't get was breakfast, because I wasn't a big breakfast eater at the time.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. All right, so you go back, you think about your days at the University of Florida. Any particular game, or what's the one moment in your career that stands out the most?
For me, it's probably, for sure, I have to say going against FSU in the College World Series when we eliminated them in 1991. We didn't do it particularly as well as we wanted because LSU was so dominant that year and that decade pretty much that we lost to them a couple of times. They hammered us pretty good. But FSU, we beat them. I think it was 5-0, and I pitched a 9-inning, 3-hit shutout complete game against them. So that was pretty high on my list from day one all the way until now. And then I got to get interviewed on ESPN back in the day where they put that thing in your ear, and I remember holding it with my left. It was in my left ear, and I'm holding it with my left hand. And I got an ESPN mic on it, and it was pretty cool that somebody snapped a picture and took that. So I remember
awesome.
That game. Yeah.
Hey, so I just thought about this. Now I can't think, because we were in school at the same time. You came a couple years after me, but we were here pretty much the same time. The SEC in baseball was good, but it's not like what it is now, right?
It was good, but you're getting guys that are turning down $500,000 to $800,000, some of them $1 million to get to school and play in the SEC. I mean, the facilities are just top notch. I mean, they're like big league spring training facilities that are brand new. So you show a kid that compared to $150,000 or $250,000, and they're going to say they're going to take their chance, get their degree, and go from there, or do their 3 years and take a chance. But they're definitely a lot bigger, stronger, and faster for sure.
Yeah. So I got to ask this. We quarterbacks, we always throw interceptions, and as pitchers, we give up home run balls. Who hit the farthest home run off of Marc Valdes?
Oh, I don't know about distance-wise, because I feel like they all just got over the fence just barely. So that's just my opinion. But I think the one that really got me pretty good was I was pitching in Atlanta against the Braves, of course, and Javi Lopez. There's bases loaded, one or two outs, and I just gave him a hanging slider. I thought I had him on a 2-strike count. And I hung the slider, and boom, that was a grand slam. And that's a tough field to hit in. I mean, it's very hot and humid. The ball doesn't carry that great. And that thing, I think, was elite. It's close to up in the upper deck at Coca-Cola Field in their old stadium.
When, the SEC, as you mentioned, have some tremendous facilities now. I think they were pretty good back when your days, but now they're unbelievable. But I got to play a high school game at Duty Noble Field at Mississippi State University. And back then, before they've redone it in the last couple of years, which is extremely nice now, they had the left field lounge with all the couches, the barbecue grills going. Was that one of your favorite places to go play?
Oh, definitely top three for sure. Not even a question. Those fans were rowdy, fun. They had knowledge of the game. They're there early tailgating like a football game. I mean, baseball was their team when I was there in the early 90s, more so than football. So they're tailgating out there in left field, and they're calling us out. I remember my teammate, who was a year ahead of me, John Burke, he was pitching one game, and they were just all over him. And I'm just like, oh, my God, because I know he's pitching the next day, and I'm like, when they know that I'm pitching, oh, they're gonna lamb-blast me for sure. And they just were all over me. I mean, I had thick eyebrows, so they're all over me about my eyebrows. Calling me a bunch of names that can't really repeat. But after the game, after we pitched well, they were very nice. I mean, they wanted us to go and hang with them out there and have some of their barbecue. We're like, no, we're shagging for BP. We can't. We'll get in trouble.
Yeah, it's a great place, no question. At Chris Doring Mortgage, they do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today, 352-244-0840. We're speaking with Marc Valdes, former Gator pitcher here on the Titan MR hotline. Marc, talk about what was it like playing for Joe Arnold?
Loved it so much. Again, timing is everything at times, and we had a left-handed pitcher, John Corbett, who went down with an injury, and I got to I had a pretty decent fall, and I got a shot to start. And then after that time, I ended up being one of the top three starters my freshman year, all the way until I ended up leaving my junior year. But Joe was great. I mean, he said it like it is. He was fun. He gave you tough love. I mean, he wasn't always easy. But he gave you a straight up honest answer all the time, and was always, forthcoming.
We're speaking with Marc Valdes here on the Titan MR hotline. Okay, so Marc, after your college career, you go play professionally for the Florida Marlins. Was it a huge culture shock, or maybe not culture shock, but what's the biggest difference going from college ball and like single A, double A, triple A to the majors? What's the biggest difference?
For me, I had to learn real quick that, I was good at University of Florida for those 3 years. But once I signed and I saw the other players, now that I'm going against guys that are 21 to 28, that you're just another pitcher on the block, basically. So you need to go ahead and show them, why they drafted you number one. So there was the pressure of me feeling that I had to prove every day. I felt like there wasn't like a day off to where I was like, all right, I'm here, I'm established. It felt like every day I was trying to prove myself on the Marlins drafting me number one, and to hopefully pitch in the big leagues one day, which thankfully happened. So the biggest part was probably just shell shocked on how good all the other players were when you thought you were one of the best coming out.
Yeah, and you play with the Expos, the Astros, the Braves. You were with the Marlins the longest, I believe, or the Expos. What was it like playing up in Montreal back in those days?
I loved it. I loved it. Thank God it was in a dome, because that would not have been fun in April and May, because it was cold up there. I mean, snow, driving in really wet and damp and snowy conditions was different for me, of course. So I ended up started taking the train, which went from like downtown place where I lived straight into the dome, Olympic Stadium that they built there, which wasn't all that great, but I learned a lot from the manager there, Felipe Alou, who gave me a chance to be a starter, but worked me in slowly, like put me in positions to succeed well out of the bullpen, and then all of a sudden gave me a chance to start pitching and going from there. And then after a while, I started being used a little bit more. And a year later, in 1998, I ended up having Tommy John surgery.
So I got a question here. And whether you're playing college football or in the NFL, you're watching your tape, and there's usually one or two DBs. They're all very, very good, but there's got to be a little bit of a weakness somewhere in the defense, and that's where you try to attack. As a major league pitcher, you look at the lineup. 9 guys coming to the plate. There's never an easy out, right? Except I guess if the pitcher back in the National League, if the pitcher comes up, that's an easy out. But you really mentally, you can't relax, right?
No, you cannot. It's funny that you mentioned that because people ask me all the time, who was the toughest hitter you faced, what team, blah, blah, blah. And I said, honestly, there's some names that, will scare you as far as the name, but you just go after them. But the guys that always did damage to me, which set the tone for the other team, if I didn't do well that game, was basically like the 1, 2, 8, 9 hole hitters. The more of the little slap guys that back then they were just speedy. They would either bunt on you or hit the ball in the hole. They'd put the ball in play. They would frustrate you. They would get your pitch count up. Now it's a different story. A lot of them can take you out of the ballpark from 1 through 9. But those guys that were setup guys, those are the guys that gave me a lot of trouble.
What was it like playing over in Japan?
Japan. It's funny. It's funny because I saw you there one time. I guess you were with the Redskins in Osaka.
That's right. That's right. I forgot about that.
We talked about it. It was like some game. I forgot the team that you guys were playing.
It was a preseason game where we were playing the 49ers. Coach Spurrier's first game as a NFL coach.
That's right. And we talked about it. I brought a couple of my teammates. They call them gaijins over there in Japan, foreigners. That's what they call us. And we were talking about, man, what's it like over here? I'm like, it's crazy. I'm like a rock star per se. I mean, if you do well and you succeed, they treat you like you are definitely a rock star. I mean, they're taking photos of you everywhere you go. I can't imagine the players like Brady or LeBron and all these stars that we have here these days that wherever they go, they're getting, photos taken of them. They have no privacy. They have no private life. So that was kind of a difference, but I loved it. I loved the culture, the food, the people were great. And I still believe in a lot of stuff that they do today, that I do today that I got from them.
Mark, after your baseball career, I believe you were a pitching coach in the minors, and now you do pitching lessons down in the Tampa area. Did you enjoy being a pitching coach?
Loved it. I loved it tremendously. I had 12 wonderful years with the Mets and their organization. Got to develop a lot of young and good pitchers that are still pitching today. And I loved it. I mean, 12 years. I took 1 year off after I left Japan. I came to play for the Yankees in the minor leagues, got released twice by them during the same year. And ended up going, well, what am I going to do now? All right, here we go. So I took a year off, and the Mets called, and I was going to be the pitching coach at Tampa Jesuit High School at that point in time. Actually, I was. And then I got the job, and I told the team that, hey, this is my dream. I want to try to get back to the big leagues as a pitching coach. And had 12 wonderful years, and we went to the World Series in 2015. I got to take my dad there. I was in Scottsdale, Arizona, with the Arizona Fall League as a pitching coach for the Salt Lake River Rafters. And they said, hey, take the 5 days off to take your dad. And the Mets flew me out, flew my dad out. We met up at LaGuardia. They put us in a room and got to see the World Series live. But unfortunately, we lost to the Kansas City Royals that year.
Yeah, that's cool. Speaking of being a pitching coach, you see, we have a lot of people that listen and watch this show that have young kids that play baseball. Arm problems. As a pitcher, you see so many young guys where they're playing too much travel ball, playing year round, destroy their arms. What kind of advice would you give to any youngster out there listening that wants to be a successful pitcher when it comes to taking care of their arm?
I'd say I've got so many little points that I mention on this, and I'll try to put them all in a nutshell for you. I see so many kids before the age of 14 or 13 and a half throwing breaking balls at age 8 and 7 so that their dad can be the champion of winning a travel ball team. For me, that's a joke. Okay. If I had a son, he wouldn't throw a breaking ball until at least he was 13 and a half. I would say, no, son, I'm sorry. Love you too much. And I want you to be healthy, and you're not getting drafted or you're not going to college until another 4 years anyway. So you have time to develop that pitch. The mechanics part of it, I love, if I had a son too, I would have him play other sports. He could play soccer, basketball, football, whatever. I wouldn't have him stick with one sport only for the whole year, like some of these parents do down here. And it's sad. I mean, a lot of them improve for sure, but I see a lot of them maxing out when they're like 14, 15, 16. And all of a sudden, once they get to high school, JV, all of a sudden they're not that good. And you've got other players that have been elevated over them, and they just can't compete. They max out early. And for me, has a lot to do with they're trying to win these third and fourth place trophies in some place in Sarasota, playing against 2 or 3 other teams or 4 other teams that are coming from Louisiana or Texas. And they want to show that, we're winning this for our 8-year-old son. And that's too much. You got to give these kids a break. So in the pitching lessons that I have for the kids that I have here in Tampa, there's a lot of parents that ask me, I'm like, hey, give little Johnny a break, man. Give him a couple months off. It's not going to hurt him. He doesn't have to play winter baseball in November and December. He's got spring coming up. He'll play in the summer. Give him a couple months off. So I would say give a little rest. No breaking balls until 13, 14, and let him play other sports, because he may be better in another sport, and he didn't even get the pick.
Yep, that's tremendous advice. I agree 100% with you on that. So I got to ask you this. I played high school baseball. I just played shortstop. I didn't pitch or anything, just played short. But I've always been curious at the collegiate level or in minor leagues when you're a pitching coach, or even the majors when you're playing, what actually does a pitching coach, or whether it's the manager or the head coach, when he comes to the mound, does he dog cuss you in a nice way? Because, when you throw an interception, Coach Spurrier's going to let you know about it. So if you're walking a bunch of dudes and giving up a bunch of hits, can't find the plate, first of all, what do most coaches say to you? And then what did Marc Valdes say to his pitchers?
I don't know if this is what's the age of the audience right here right now. When I was a player, I had some coaches just come and just calm me down, because they could see I was probably getting frustrated. Coach Scott Lovecamp, the pitching coach at the University of Florida when I was there, was big into the mental game, which I learned a lot from him and this doctor who wrote a book, Harvey Dorfman. If there was a high school kid listening or a parent, you wanted to buy a book, The Mental Game of Baseball by Harvey Dorfman is phenomenal. So Scott Lovecamp would come out and say, hey, just go back to your bread and butter, get the sinker down. You want him to start to chase this slider for the strikeout, go ahead and finish it. He would just call. He had a nice calming effect. So there was never a yelling or an argument or a back and forth banter. Like, no, I'm going to throw this pitch and you're calling this pitch. So it was never any of that. And I don't like calling pitches. I want these young gentlemen to learn how to pitch on their own. They have to be their own pitching coach out there. But I had some other pitching coaches that would get into they'll put their finger in your face and point right at your nose, like, you better get this done, or Joel in the bullpen right now is coming in. He's going to blow your wind, and I'm taking you out in the fourth and on the top of the fourth. You're not even going to finish this fourth inning. You're definitely not going the fifth. And it's totally different. And for me, what worked better, I liked just a calming effect. But there was plenty of times where I needed somebody to jump me a little bit, because I was getting a little frustrated with, maybe I wasn't doing that well that day, or I wasn't getting the pitches called. So I needed the calming effect most of the time. For me, I learned that. So when I was a pitching coach for 12 years, there were times where I saw bad mound presence, and that really ticks you off as a pitching coach. A guy, his shoulders go down. He starts to walk around the mound like, hey, what about me? There's errors behind me. I can't do this. This is not fair. My pitch count's getting up. those times I pretty much will go out there and I'll cover my mouth and use every vocabulary word that I can to spark a fire in this kid. And there's other times I would say a joke or say something totally just off basis, like, hey, hey, John, listen, you're doing fine. You gave up 3 runs. You can't really give up anymore. You got the pitcher coming up. There's 2 outs. Relax. You'll be fine. And then after tonight, you can go see your girlfriend, go see a movie, and have a little fun. All right? And then tomorrow morning, I'll see you, and you'll be running, and you'll be doing your legs, and you have another day. So don't worry about it. So there's plenty of ways to get. You have to know the player when you go out there and talk to him. I like the most important pitch for me. Everybody says fastball or strike one or this. For me, it's your next pitch. That's the most important pitch. Is your next one. And if you make it that simple, take a lot of pressure off yourself.
Yeah, I like that. I got to ask you about being in the Mets organization. What were your thoughts about Tim Tebow? He's now retired from baseball, but did you like him trying to play baseball, or did that bother you?
It didn't bother me whatsoever. I mean, come on, guy, it's just A+. I mean, I just get goosebumps even talking about him. Like the first time I met him, he's in the training room, and once we signed him, the whole organization was sending me texts. Oh, Mark, oh boy, you're going to be able to control yourself. You got Tim Tebow coming in. Oh boy, because I was talking about him from the get-go. When I first was just, I have a tattoo of a gator on my leg, for Christ's sake. So they know I'm a big-time Gator. So the first time I met him, he's in the training room. He's getting ready for a spring training practice in the morning. And I was like, oh, he's in there? All right, good. We just finished our coaches meeting. Let me go in there and say hello. And I go in there, and he's talking with a couple other trainers that are Gators too. And I said, oh, shit, Tim, it's great to meet you. Oh, oops. Oh, no. I just said a bad word. He goes, hey, Tim. Hey, Mark, I'm Tim Tebow. Nice to meet you, though. You're all right. Don't worry about it. I go, oh, my goodness.
That's awesome.
So Christian religious. I'm like, oh, Lord, have mercy.
Good stuff. Hey, I want to ask. Great. Yeah, I want to ask you. We got a few more minutes with Marc Valdes, former Gator pitcher here. You played in McKeithen Stadium. It's been torn down. They're putting the football facility there. The new ballpark is unbelievable. But just your thoughts. I mean, you had a bunch of great memories there. Was it very difficult to know that place was being torn down?
A little bit. But I felt like the University of Florida is such a top-notch school that if they build another stadium, I think that's going to help. I mean, because the one that they have now is just like, oh, it's gorgeous, as you said. But there's some fond memories of McKeithen Stadium, and one of them is when we won the regional to go to the 1991 World Series, and I believe it was when John Pritchard was closing it out. And everybody just threw their gloves up off the mound. We ran from our dugouts and piled up on the mound. And that was probably one of the most joyous times I ever had. And it was on that mound, in that stadium.
When you look at this Gator program right now, what Coach O'Sullivan has done with them, I mean, they were, preseason number 1. Obviously, they didn't win the series against Miami, but they're going to be in the hunt when it's all said and done. I mean, this baseball program is unbelievable right now, what he's done with it.
It's phenomenal. I try to keep in touch with him every now and then, shoot him a text. Like last year, COVID hit. I think they only lost 1 game, and it may have been the last game it played. I think it was maybe the FSU. Yep. And they won the first game in the new stadium. That's great. They just learned a lesson. Like, hey, you're number 1, so everybody's coming after you. You've got a mark on they're coming after you. They're going to give you their best shot every time. So you got to prepare. You got to be mentally tough. And I truly believe that with O'Sullivan and that coaching staff, that team will be there in the College World Series this year.
I agree with you 100%. Well, Mark, if anybody's listening to our show and lives in your Tampa area or, maybe in Orlando and wants to travel over for your pitching lessons, do you have a website, or how do they get a hold of you?
Well, I have a Facebook. They can reach out to me. I also have a website as an email of mvpitching at gmail.com, or they can go to www.bigleagueapproach.com. I do that with another former Major League Baseball player, Jason Michaels. He does the hitting in the cages in the indoor facility, and I do the pitching.
Before I let you go, who's going to win the World Series this year?
This year, I'm picking the Mets. I'm going home. I'm going with the orange and blue.
Yeah, for real, the Mets?
That's right. I love what they did on this offseason, and I know the manager personally, Luis Rojas, and I just feel that they're gonna step up for him, and they just got to get past that National League East, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll have to check back in on that. I think most people are picking the Dodgers, right?
I understand totally. LA, I'm not picking them. They beat my American League team, the Rays, last year on a tough one, Game 6.
No doubt. Well, Mark, we appreciate you joining us, buddy. One of the greatest pitchers in Gator baseball history. We'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Thanks so much. You guys have a great and awesome show, and I appreciate your time too as well.
Thank you. That's Marc Valdes. Join us on the Titan MR hotline from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We're going to take our final time out of this Friday edition. We come back, we're going to wrap it up.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. G-Tech Sport, keep your athletes in the game with G-Tech Sport. Celebration Point Town Center, Center State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Big Mills Cheesesteaks, MB Listing, Cornerstone Financial, McDonald's of Gainesville, My IT Masters, Gainesville Neon and Signs, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Chick-fil-A on Archer Road, Avra and Smith, Dowling Signs, Chomp Carter Apparel, Ruse Ogra Agent, State Farm Insurance, Silver Cube Billiards and Sports Bar. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit PodUpWithShane.com and click the Advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. I want to thank Pat Dooley, formerly of the Gainesville Sun, now with Jeff Cardozo on the tailgate on WRUF Monday through Friday, and former Gator pitcher Marc Valdes joined us here on this Friday edition. At Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. This month, get a free annual maintenance plan with every residential duct cleaning purchase, $199 value. Service departments open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In 1997, Tommy Lasorda, Nellie Fox, and Willie Wells are inducted into the National Baseball Hall of Fame. That's brought to you by our good friends at Comfort Temp. Next week, got a really good lineup. Make sure you check it out on Facebook and YouTube, Spotify, all that good stuff. Tell your friends to follow us as well. Today's show's a wrap, brought to you by Wrap Spot. Have a great weekend, folks. We'll see you on Monday.
Trying to get the fans fired up. 2nd down and 10. Matthews rolling to his right, in trouble, can't find anyone. Now he throws it for Harrison Houston, who makes the catch. He's in the open field. Harrison to the 20. They're not going to catch him. Touchdown, Gators!